Good morning, everyone. Today we will be doing the poem To His Coy Mistress by Andrew Marvell. Andrew Marvell belongs to the metaphysical school of poetry, and we have done one poem, Death Be Not Proud, by John Donne in the previous video, who is known as the father of metaphysical school of poetry. Before beginning the introduction and summary to the poem, let me tell you something about the metaphysical school of poetry. With the advent of scientific revolution, the nature of poetic metaphor also underwent a change. Poets began to examine and observe the change in the world around them and express it as a comparison, a metaphor, or a conceit, which endeavored to bring two different objects together and identify a point of similarity or parallelism. Helen Gardner, in the volume entitled The Metaphysical Poets, begins with Walter Raleigh, ends with John Norris, and covers almost the whole of the 18th century, a century which witnessed many changes and upheavals. If on the one hand it was a period of growth and colonial expansion and development of science, on the other it was characterized by political changes and religious conflict in England. The word metaphysical was first used by Dryden with reference to John Donne in 1693. Samuel Johnson was to use it later in the life of Cowley. The metaphysical poets use comparisons in a striking manner, bringing together things which were ordinarily disparate, things that were unlike, and when they were compared, the dissimilarities were stronger than the similarities. Donne's poems Donne's poems and the poems of the metaphysical poets, that is like Herbert and Cowley and even Andrew Marvell, they have a very dramatic and abrupt beginning. Many of their poems were personal in concern, and they successfully developed the conceit to its full imagination. All metaphysical poems were not love poems. Religion and religious devotion were other popular themes. The symbolic meanings in the Bibles are drawn out in metaphorical conceits. As for Andrew Marvell, he was born in 1621, died in 1678, was a poet and parliamentarian, was the son of a clergyman. Marvell graduated from Cambridge. He is known for his satires and controversial tracts. He began writing while he was still at the university, but a majority of his poems were published only after his death. To His Coy Mistress is written in the metaphysical style, wherein the quality of coyness, coy means shy, is described as a luxury meant for those lovers who have ample enough time. There is in this disregard for coyness a reversal of the courtly tradition. To His Coy Mistress is Andrew Marvell's best known poem. It focuses on the lustful desires of a man attempting to entice a female virgin, the mistress, into sexual intimacy. The poem, in this introduction and summary of the poem, we see that the poem is a tour de force and has come to be known as a seduction poem. Wit, allusion, and metaphor are all employed in what is a syllogism, a logical argument that can be summed up in a short phrase. For example, life is too short, let's get it on before you and I decay. It was first published in 1681 in Miscellaneous Poems, 3 years after the death of the author. Marvell is known today as one of the metaphysical poets alongside such names as John Donne, Henry Vaughan, George Herbert, and Richard Crashaw, because he wrote on subjects such as man's place in the universe, existence, love, and religion. To His Coy Mistress is a clever, well-structured poem, a dramatic monologue in effect. The speaker progresses logically through the stages of persuasion in an effort to turn the lady's head and heart. He wants to deflower her before it's too late. Basically, his argument goes like this. If they had all the time in the world at their disposal, dispose. Let me repeat. If they had all the time in the world at their disposal, then everything would be fine, and he didn't have to press her for an intimacy. But he notates that there is no time to lose. Before them, there is eternity, a vast desert where they'll both turn to dust and ashes in the grave. Beauty will die, not a very pleasant prospect. Lust turns to disgust, and the time flies. Let's devour time before it devours us. Devours means eat up. Let's the instinct drives birds of prey, why not us? Let's strike while the iron is hot and create a ball of passion and take on the sun. As you can see, the argument in the poem builds up through the three sections of the poem, starting off with the speaker's assertion that the lady's coyness or shyness or modesty wouldn't be deemed or thought of as a moral crime if they had all the world in which to spend time together. There then follows a series of potential scenarios laid out by the speaker to illustrate exactly what he means. There is a relaxed tone to these lines, spiced with hyperbole and allusion. She, being of Indian descent perhaps, could go walking by the river Ganges in search of rubies. In legend, the river originates from a huge jujube tree near a hermitage where stand some stairs made of rubies and corals. Likewise, he being from Hull in East Yorkshire, England, could go walking by the tidal river Humber, only he wouldn't be looking for precious stones, he would be complaining, perhaps unhappy with the distance between him and his lady. And there would in this section, we are doing just an introduction and summary. We will do an explanation in the next video. So just try to understand the poem by just this introduction and have a look at the poem. And there would also be time, thousands of years, for him to admire her physical beauty, her eyes, her other parts of the body, and so on. Keeping regular rhyme and rhythm throughout, the poem culminates in what many think is an alchemical climax of sorts, a coming together of male and female elements with the emphasis on a passionate fusion strong enough to affect even the sun. In conclusion to his coy mistress, explores the realm of human mortality, approaching the seriousness of this finite reality with humor, with logic, with ironic reflection. Why let time get the upper hand when being so proactive could bring fulfillment? In this poem, In this poem, you will see the elements of metaphysical poetry, and you will see the rhyme scheme, which is A, B, B, C, C, D, D, and so on, which shows a tight knit relationship. And you will see the use of alliteration. There are several examples in the poem, and when we do the analysis, you will have a close look at it, like we would, long loves, and age at love at lower, while thy willing, thus though, stand still, we will. That is the repetition of a sound. Alliteration brings texture and altered phonics to the line and challenges the reader. And To His Coy Mistress is a 46 line single stanza split into three sections, and some modern versions available online show three distinct stanzas, but the original is indeed one stanza, indented lines at 21 and 23. The poem has a dominant 8 syllable 4 beat rhythm to the majority of lines and iambic tetrameter, but there are lines that deviate from this familiar steady constant. The varied beats in certain lines tend to alter the pace and emphasis, and together with a mix of punctuation, colons, semicolons, commas, and full stops, not forgetting enjambment and repetition, makes the syntax, the sentence construction, particularly suitable for conveying a sense of momentum and familiarity. This much for the introduction. We will do the rest in the next video.